everybody. Jeff Jones here. Welcome to the weekly Chase Oaks Church podcast. Before we dive in, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and download the Chase Oaks Church app. The app is the best place to catch up on messages, engage with our community, and stay in the loop with everything going on around here. Most importantly, my hope is that today's message inspires you to take your next step in your faith journey. Here we go.
Celebrating Jeff's 20 years of being lead pastor at Chase Oaks, which is so crazy. And so we decided we would do something really fun. And we asked some of you to share stories or moments or quotes about Jeff in the last 20 years that just totally stick out in your mind. And we pulled together a list of some of our favorites, and we're going to have Jeff read some of them now.
I love how Jeff takes Jesus' mission seriously, but he doesn't take himself seriously. For example, I'll never forget when he prayed at the end of church, and instead of saying amen, he said, "Roll Tide." It still makes me laugh. And I'm glad it makes you laugh, but I think Jesus was happy. Roll Tide. And yes, always roll tide. One time, Jeff and I went to Chick-fil-A, and he ordered a salad, which was great, except he only ate the bacon off the salad. I totally believe that. I do order salads sometimes, and I always regret it 100% after I do. In fact, I had a salad today for lunch, and it was okay, but I was like starving 20 minutes later. The world's messed up. It's a broken, fallen world. Okay, here's another one. I love Jeff's heart for the next generation and for people who don't know Jesus. He is a visionary, and yet he can't find his wallet. That is true. I've always been a person who loses, whether it's keys or wallets or children. I tend to lose them, and that's why you may have seen this before. This is my best purchase I've ever made. This neon green wallet. I just ordered a new one because this one's getting a little bit dirty, and I have not lost this once. And you can see why. Hey, sorry.
Hey,
I think I
forgot your wallet.
forgot a sandwich. I don't know where I'm.
I don't think you
There's
carried
gonna be a
anything.
sandwich somewhere.
I don't think you carried anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, sorry to.
If I see sandwich, I'll bring it to you, but
Okay.
I don't think.
One word to describe Jeff: authentic. Two words to describe Jeff: authentically goofy. Well, those are two good words. I do want to be authentic, and yes, I am goofy. I just want to say that Jeff has been the lead pastor here longer than I've been alive. Wow. Cheers to another 20. That hurts a little bit.
Jeff, we love you. Thank you so much for being here for 20 years and all the life change that you have made possible. We love you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, my name is Jack Warren. I'm on staff here. I've been here a little while, but it's a privilege to have you joining us tonight. I want to say hi to those that are watching online, those at the other campuses. Thank you for joining us. But I want to take just a moment and just say a little bit of word about the person you see on the screen there. Jeff and I met when he was a freshman in college. And I was a senior, he was a freshman, we met, and that year we did some student ministry together for that year. And again, he's freshman, I'm senior, I'm getting ready to go, I'm getting ready to move to Dallas. And I'll never forget telling Jeff, I hope someday we get to do ministry together. And this was in Birmingham, Alabama. So me and my wife take off, we move to Dallas, we jump into Fellowship Bible Church, and we're here for several years. Jeff graduates, Jeff gets married. Next thing you know, Jeff comes to Chase Oaks Church, again, Fellowship Bible Church, and we get to do ministry together. So we did student ministry for several years together, and it was incredible. Jeff and Christy led small groups. They went on mission trips with us. They did retreats with us. I'll never forget one retreat. I had a really good speaker lined up. He was a Young Life guy, youth pastor from Fort Worth, and he had to cancel 2 days before the retreat. And we had like 80 to 100 kids going on this retreat, and it's like, okay, what do we do? So Jeff and I scrambled, and Jeff ends up speaking for that retreat. Now, it was an amazing retreat. I think it's the best retreat we ever had. And that's just the kind of person that he is, an amazing communicator, amazing speaker. And these pictures you see, obviously the family's younger there with the kids. And I did know that Jeff lost kids, Jeff lost wallets. I didn't know he'd ever lost a sandwich. But he's missed exits, like miles and miles of missing an exit. And I'm like, why are we in Oklahoma? I think we should have taken that legacy exit. Like, that happens if you ride in the car with him. He's getting a little better at that. But he does lose a lot of things. But I want to share with just a few words about Jeff things that are true just about Jeff that I think it's good for all of us to recall, and I think all of you feel this and experience this. Things that are true about Jeff and are still true today would include his commitment to communicating truth in a very conversational, relatable, inspiring instead of shaming, and helpful way. His humor and his off-script comments, you do all know that he does off-script comments, calls all of us to lean in. He's always had a passion for the person who was searching but not following Christ yet. I saw that with students that he related to. I see that with his extended family, and I see that with people who come to any of our campuses or watch online. He has a passion to help that person follow Jesus. Making truth easy to understand has always been a high value of his, and many of us are here today because of that passion. He's been a friend to me for over 38 years, and I know, like, we're old. Okay, I'm even older, but some of you weren't born yet, but 38 years that we've been friends. And through some challenging times, especially over the last few years, and Jeff has been an amazing, amazing friend. But Jeff is an amazing friend, an amazing pastor, an amazing leader for us here at Chase Oaks. He continues to champion the vision of helping people follow Jesus and inspiring people to follow Jesus, and together change this community for good and to change this world for good. So we're super, super thankful for him, and he's probably uncomfortable that I continue to talk about him. So would you join me and let's welcome Jeff Jones.
Thank you, Jack.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so yes, look at that. There you go.
Thank y'all. Y'all are very kind. All right, that's good. Thank you.
Now,
yeah.
Yes, go ahead and have a seat. Now, I know you're ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
you're ready to charge into a sermon.
Yeah.
But also, today is a special day because today is his birthday.
That's true.
And so, you look at that. Jeff, do you have fans?
Awesome.
I don't know, this didn't work. Your wife gave this to me, but I don't think it works right, or I just didn't do it right. But happy birthday. And we have
Thank
a
you,
gift for
Jack.
you. Before you jump in, I know
Okay.
this thing's gonna continue on.
Yeah.
But we have a gift for you. So if you look right here, Jeff's favorite drink is Zevia. And so
That's true, and I'm out. Look at that.
this is a
That's awesome.
lifetime supply
Beautiful.
of Zevia. Every flavor you
That'll
can
take
imagine.
me about a month. That is awesome.
Not
Thank
really.
you. Yeah.
It'll take Jeff a week to go through this. But
So good.
happy birthday.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for your 20 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Now you got a sermon to deliver.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you. Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you, Jack, for saying all that. And you need to know that Christy and I mean, we've been here since 1989, on staff in one way or another for 34 years, 35 years, whatever that is. And in this role for 20 years. And it is just one of the greatest privileges of our life. I mean, my whole career is here. This is my family. Our family would say, this is our family. It's our church family. And God used this place when I was disillusioned with church to re-illusion me with church. And I'll be forever grateful for that and ever grateful for you. And I played a little part, but I want to thank you for playing your part, because it's not just one person that makes a church impactful, right? It takes everybody to lean in and say, God, what is my part? What do you want me to do? And Christy's here tonight. She won't be here Sunday because she'll be with her 4th and 5th graders. Christy, stand up. I know you won't want this, but she's the one that deserves the credit. So we are starting a new series called Ripple Effect. And it's about living a life where we have an outsized impact, the kind of life that God really does want us to live, that I believe we all want to live lives of impact. And when you think about ripple effect, if you see the still water behind me, like picture yourself in like a mountain lake, right? Beautiful, still. Now, if you walk up to that mountain lake, if you're like me, here's what I would do. I would take a moment and just sort of take it in, the peace and the serenity. I might take a moment and pray and do that. And then you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna find a rock and I'm gonna throw it in. Here we go, right? Just like that. Let's do that one more time. Isn't this cool? Can we do it one more time? Oh, it's fun. I could do that all day, even on the screen, because there's something awesome and fun and wonderful about throwing rocks in the water. I don't know what's so big deal about that, but it is. And there's this little thrill of seeing the ripple and then seeing all that happen. But that's small, tiny, compared to the thrill of being used by God to make an outsized impact in our world. And I believe every one of us, and I believe this like biblically, as a biblical conviction, every one of us has a deep desire implanted with us because the Bible says we're made in God's image, we're made in his likeness. And if you're new to church, new to Christianity, you may think, I don't know, but it's just what God says in the Bible is that you and I are created to be like him, which means impactful. And God has even thought about us, the Bible says, and has gifted us and placed us and all that. And that's what we're gonna see in this series, about how to live a life of impact, because there's no better way to live life, no more joyful, significant way to live life. And yet most people, even most people who know Jesus, and sometimes religious people are actually the last to actually understand this, is that there's a mindset that has to be there to live an outsized impact. If you look at people who, and you might think of people who just seem to have this huge impact in lives and huge impact in the marketplace, huge impact in the world, huge impact in their family, in their neighborhoods, in their school. And you think, well, what's true of those people? And today we're gonna see what that is. And without this, you and I will have minimal impact. With this, we'll have outsized impact. And it's all about mindset. Now, throughout the whole series, we'll be talking about, well, what does it look like in different spheres of life to live with this mindset? But today, we're gonna look at the most basic thing, and that is a mindset, which is very different. It's not natural. In fact, I believe it's supernatural. And it's a big choice to make in life to live with this mindset. And when a church lives with this mindset, it's gonna have an outsized impact in its community. Most churches, however, aren't really gonna be driven by this mindset, and we'll see why. It's why we have to always lean in and keep it, because the second we don't start keeping our eye on this ball is the second we drift from the mindset. As individuals, same thing. Most individuals just won't live with this mindset and therefore have very minimal impact. So we're gonna be talking about a mindset. It's a mindset that Jesus had, that he passes on to every one of his followers, and it's one that if you and I choose, we'll be forever grateful that we do. And so to illustrate the mindset, we're gonna look at the life of Jesus, and we're gonna see it illustrated in him as he passes it on to his people, the church, and which the church is just you and me, both collectively as we gather and all over the place individually as God has placed us where he's placed us. But before I look at this passage in Luke in the New Testament, since it's our 20-year kind of look back at this phase of our ministry, I wanna go back to a story, and we're gonna hear a song in a little bit, because it's like an iconic story in our church that you may not know. So 20 years ago it was in January of 2004. Gene Getz is our founding pastor, still in our church, had started multiple churches, started this church in 1981, and really ended up starting a movement of churches around the country, a few hundred around the country and different ones around the world. Wrote a book called Sharpening the Focus of the Church that he's just rewritten, and it's just out. Look it up, Amazon it, Sharpening the Focus of the Church, one of the most impactful books for church leaders over the last 50 years. So he did an incredible job, but it was time now to pass the baton to the next leader, which happened to be me. And we were in a succession process, and we had a timeline laid out. And in November, he called me one day and said, Jeff, I know we've got time left in the transition, but the transition has gone faster than we planned. And I believe it's time to pass the baton early. I believe we need to do it now. And I was like, well, all right, and so we met and put some time in there. This was in November, and so in January, let's do it. We passed the baton in January. By the way, Gene's right here. And one of the greatest tests of leadership is passing the baton well. And you did. And I want to thank you for that. So now I was the guy following a guy like that. And it was March of 2004 that I was at an elder retreat, an elder board retreat. So elders, if you're new to church, are a biblical way to talk about a board of directors with some spiritual responsibility on top of that. It's one way to think about it. So we're at this board retreat at somebody's lake house. And it was a vision retreat, right? Because we didn't have our act all together because it happened pretty quickly, happened earlier than we thought. And so this was a retreat to say, hey, what is our vision for the next era of the life of our church? And so we were all there together. And on Saturday morning, I sent everybody out to spend time with God for a listening exercise to just say, hey, let's all pray. Let's all hear from God. God, what do you want for Chase Oaks Church? What do you want for our church over this next era? Now, I was prepared. I had sort of the answer, I thought. I had a whole deck laid out of what the vision was because that is my role. And, as a senior pastor, it's not, it's like a bad date if you don't have something to bring, like, a bad date where you say, well, where do you want to go eat? I don't care. Where do you want to go? Well, I want to go where you want to go. Well, what do you like? I like everything. Well, I like everything. You don't want to do that. Like, well, what do you want the church? So I was ready. I came prepared. So even though I wanted to be collaborative, I wanted everybody to have input, but I also felt confident we've already got the vision. We've already got the answer. A little overconfident. Because when we left, everybody split up. I went in my car, which at the time was a convertible, and went to this place overlooking the lake by myself. And I felt so good about it. I thought, I've already got the answer. It's all laid out. It's all pretty. It's all ready to go. But, just for the fun of it, I'll go ahead and take it out and talk about it with God. He'll be impressed. And when I looked at it and began to pray through it, honestly, it was just so flat. The sense I had was whatever our vision is for the future, God's vision for this church, this isn't it. There was a lot of good stuff in there, but honestly, it was sort of so everything that in vision, if you try to be everything, it's sort of nothing. And that's what it was. And then I started to panic a little bit. I was like, wait a minute, I'm just gonna have to throw this away, and I don't have anything except a blank piece of paper. But that's okay. I still had a few hours to go. So I was praying and reading and thinking and writing stuff down. It was like this block was happening where nothing seemed right. And that went on until about 10 minutes before it was time to go to be with the rest of the board. And I knew everybody was gonna be looking at me to say, well, Jeff, how about you? What do you think? And I was gonna have to say, I got nothing. I don't know, which is not a good retreat as a first retreat. And so I got frustrated. And out loud, I said to God, I was frustrated with God. I said, God, you just seem like you're blocking everything. I don't have anything. It's supposed to be a listening exercise. You don't seem to be inspiring anything. And so I just quit. I don't quit my job. I just quit trying. And I'm just gonna listen to the radio and then just go and have the worst elder meeting vision retreat ever. And so I turned on the car, and the second I turned on the car, a song started. A song I'd never keyed into before. It was on 92.5 classic rock radio, because that's what Jesus, I think, would do. And so it was on there. And it literally, I don't think it was accidental. The second that I turned it on is the second this song started. And it really changed everything. And I want you to experience the song, and then we'll talk about it.
Turning away from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say way which we won't understand. Don't accept that what's happening is just a case of other suffering. Or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away. It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow, and it's casting its shroud over all we have known. Unaware how the rings have grown, driven on by a heart of stone. Soon we'll find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord, using words that we find the strange, mesmerized as they light the way, find a new wind of change on the wings of the night. No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from the coldness inside. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough to just stand and stare. Is it only a dream that will be no more turning away?
So can God speak through Pink Floyd? I'm going to say yes, because I was there in the car, and I'm not an emotional person. And those of you who know me know that I have a hard time like feeling negative feelings. And I've even been to counseling for that. And it didn't work because I quit because they were a bummer. They wanted me to think, and so I have had to work on that. And yet I was emotional. Because what I sense God speak into my mind and heart is, Jeff, I don't care about the details. You'll figure that out. I'm just asking for you to be the people, the church of the no more turning away. That I've placed you in a place where there are hundreds of thousands of people who do not know Jesus, who are disconnected from me, who have no idea how much I love them, who have no idea what I want to do in their life. Hundreds of thousands of people all around you. And would you be the church of the no more turning away? Meaning turning toward. And all around you are thousands of people who are in need, and all kinds of need, whether it's mental health or physical need or financial need or family crisis or all kinds of need. And they're crying out to me for help. And they wonder if I exist, and if I exist, if I care. And I do. And that's why you're there. And would you be the church of the no more turning away? And so when I came into that elder meeting, I just said, guys, I don't know. We got to figure out details and what that looks like. And I told them the story, but let's be the church of the no more turning away. And let's figure out how to take all of our energy out. Not spin it in, not be internally focused. That's what naturally happens in religious environments. But let's resist that and spin the energy out. Because that's the mindset of Jesus. And that's the mindset that gave birth to the church. Before there was church, there was the mission. Like a friend of mine says, that it's not that the church has a mission, it's that the mission has a church. And we were called into place by Jesus, who came here to connect people who are disconnected. And it's interesting because the group of people that had the hardest time really getting that and adjusting that mindset were the religious people in Jesus' day. And you see that struggle throughout the Gospels, the books about Jesus' life in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We're gonna see one story, but those books are full of this tension of one mindset versus another, an internal mindset versus an external mindset, an other-focused mindset that Jesus had to connect with the disconnected. Like the religious people, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, and the other religious leaders were confounded by Jesus, who many people thought, and they were wondering, and he claimed to be the one sent from God, the Savior, the Messiah that had been promised. And as time went by, he was even indicating he's more than that he was God who came here, God the Son who came here to connect to us, which is obviously a big claim that many of us in this room believe. But for them, as they were looking at that, they thought, well, how could that be? Because he doesn't act like he should if that's who he is. Because he hung out with all the wrong people from their perspective. Because you might think this too, that if Jesus came here, if God came here to this planet, that he would sort of set up shop in the temple where everybody worshiped God and hung out, and that he would hang out with the best people, the good people, the religious people, the people devoted to him, where he would be adored and all that. It'd be a very comfortable environment, but that's not what Jesus did. Jesus spent his time not so much with those people as he did with, from their perspective, all the wrong people, the people who are not good at being good. The sinner, even though we're all sinners, but they had a category for that. The more notorious sinners, the tax collectors, which we have a hard time understanding why that was a thing, but it's like the mafia of their day. These were extortionists. They weren't just IRS people. They were not good people. And everybody knew that. And nobody liked him, but Jesus did. And these were his friends. And so the Pharisees and the religious leaders, that's what they called Jesus as a term of derision, that he's a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Obviously, he's not who he claims to be. And they saw it as a term of derision. He saw it very differently. And so we read, like in the book of Mark, it says, while Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, who he was calling to be one of his 12 disciples, Matthew is his other name, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. The way Jesus lived his life, it wasn't just that he hung out with his religious buddies and then occasionally he did sort of like a little mission trip to go with the tax collectors and sinners. Many of the tax collectors and sinners were following him. They were among his followers as they were figuring out what this means and what this is. And because Jesus was spending time with them, not as a project, but people that he loved. These really were his friends that felt comfortable in his presence and he felt comfortable in their presence. And that was so confounding to the religious people that it came to a head a bunch of times. And eventually it's why they rejected him. But one of the times it comes to an inflection point, it comes to a head, is in Luke 15 that leads to one of the more popular, well-known Jesus stories of all. And it's in Luke 15, starting at the top of the chapter in verse 1. Here's the occasion for the story, and then we'll tell the story. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, meaning complain under your breath. Great word, mutter, we should bring it back. In fact, this weekend, why don't you call your mother? If you haven't called your mother in a while, call your mother. She'd be so happy. This is my birthday. I called my mother today because she called me earlier, and then I called her back and said, Mom, thank you for having me. And it was a lot harder for you than for me, so thank you. But they were muttering under their breath. This man welcomes sinners and eats with them, which in that culture signified acceptance in a deep way. So they were complaining and muttering under their breath, but of course Jesus knows everything, so he could hear it, he knew it. And so Jesus told them this story. Now he actually tells three stories. He tells a story about a woman who loses a coin, meaning loses a valuable thing, loses something. Now picture something that you really value and it's in your house somewhere and you can't find it anywhere and it's a really big deal. It's precious to you and all you can think about is finding it. You can't think about anything else. And then when you finally do find it, you call your friends because maybe you got them to pray, you got them to help, and we found it, and you rejoice. That's the first story. The second story is about a shepherd who has 100 sheep. And he counts his sheep at night in the pen, and there's 99, which means one's missing. And instead of just saying, oh, well, I got 99, that's not the kind of shepherd he is. So he leaves the 99 to go after the one. And he keeps pursuing him and pursuing the one until he finds it and brings it into the fold. And when he does, he rejoices with his friends. And he said, that sheep that was lost, I found. And that's the second story. And then the third story is the one that really ups the ante. It's the story of a son, a young adult son, a son who is lost to a father who loves that son. The story of the prodigal son, you may have heard of it. It's a powerful little story, simple, but so powerful, illustrating the heart of God, but even more importantly, a mindset that is not like God. So here's the story. There's a dad who has a young adult son who decides he doesn't want to be part of the family anymore, and he asks something very audacious in that culture. Hey, you're gonna die one day anyway, so give me my share of the inheritance now, and you'll never see me again. And the father obliges. Says, okay, heartbroken, but obliges. The son takes the money, goes away, and squanders it with stupidity and sin. Becomes homeless, penniless, doesn't know what to do, he's desperate. And he thinks, okay, maybe I could go back to my house. Even though I disown my family, I'll never be a son again, but maybe I could be a servant in the household because they're taken care of so well and their life is so much better than mine right now. Maybe, even though I don't deserve that, maybe that could happen. And so he starts his way back home, wondering if he would be welcome there. And what he doesn't realize is that the father has been searching for him every day, hoping against hope that his son would one day return. And every day he'd go out on the horizon, he'd look at the horizon, again, hoping against hope that that day would not be a disappointing day. It would be the day that he would look on the horizon and see his son coming back. And day after day after day after day, until one day he sees someone coming down the road. Could it be? And as that someone gets closer, his shape and the way he walks looks like maybe it could be. And as he gets closer, I think it is. And he runs, the father runs to him, which was not normal in that culture. For the upper, the person in the upper category to run to someone in a lower category. This father doesn't care about that. It's his son. And he runs to his son and he throws his arms around him. And his son has been practicing his little speech. I'm so sorry, I don't deserve anything. I shouldn't be here, I know, but could I just be a servant in the household? And the dad is like, what are you talking about, servant? You're my son that I love. And you're back. And he has them bring a signet ring, which was the way they did business. It's like the family credit card. Brings a robe that shows that he was part of the family. He's a son. And he throws a party and invites all his friends to celebrate that his son that was lost to him is now home. His son that he longed for, that was disconnected, is now reconnected. And he throws this party. Now, if the story ended there, that's a great story. It shows the heart of the father to connect with a son who's disconnected and all of that. But it's actually not even the main point of the story. Because again, the whole occasion of the story was the religious leaders, right? Who were grumbling that Jesus was spending time with sinners and tax collectors and all the wrong people. Because the rest of the story is about the older brother who is there in the story to represent the religious people, the Pharisees and so on. So that he throws a big party, but the older brother refuses to go to the party because he's offended by it. Because the older brother was the one who did not leave. The older brother was the one who did everything right. He's the one who worked hard and stayed, and he's not so happy that brother's back and now all of a sudden everybody, the party's for him, when he's the one that's done everything right and his brother was the mess up. And so the dad goes to this older son and says, oh, please, I love you too. Please come to the party. I mean, it's your brother. Don't you understand? We got to celebrate. And he's like, you've never thrown me a party like this, and I'm the one that's done everything right. I'm the good one, and you've never thrown a party for me. He's like, don't you understand? Please come into the party. And he doesn't. And you see the mindset difference, right? Of the two mindsets. About a dad who can't think about anything as long as someone he loves is disconnected. Now, you can understand that heart of a father, heart of a parent, if you've been a parent. And even if you haven't, I bet you can imagine yourself in this role. And it's why this story is so powerful if you've ever lost a kid. Like on that video, we joked about losing kids, but I really did lose a kid one time. Just, 30 minutes or whatever at a fair. Our youngest son, Caleb, was prone to get lost. There are Caleb stories in our church. He's wonderful, excited. I mean, he's so happy and all that, but very energetic and very independent, no fear. And when he had an idea, it was just boom, he was so fast. And so we were like the first ones to design, Christy designed it, a leash system, to put a leash on him when we were out places because he was so easy to lose. And now they have these cute little teddy bear backpacks and kids wear them and parents are like, oh, that's so cute. But back then, nobody said that's so cute. If they had cell phones back then, they'd be calling 911 for abuse. How could you do this? Why do you have your kid on a leash? And we're like, if you had our kid and you wanted to keep him, you would do it too. Because at this one fair, like he was just gone like that. And all these people couldn't find him anywhere. And that was the longest 30 minutes of our lives. I mean, it's just so terrible. And we're trying to get help, and most people just blow us off, but some, oh yeah, we're gonna help. And then just like in the story, when we found him, of course we rejoiced. It's all we could think about was him and being lost and disconnected and all that. And then when we found him, we rejoiced, and so did the people that were helping us. Not many were helping us, but though, it's just like, oh man, And that's the heart of the Father. That's the heart of God for people who are lost to him. And that's why in the story, when Jesus talks about the shepherd leaving the 99 to go after the one, here's the punchline of that story. He said, in the same way, there's more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. What Jesus is saying is the heart of God is for the people who are, not just the people who are connected, but the people who aren't connected yet. Because his heart as a father goes out to every one of them. And so what he's letting us know is that what lights heaven up, what makes heaven rejoice is not when just somebody like me hangs out with my religious friends and we have a good time. It's when somebody that we know that we're relating to comes to know Jesus and begins a relationship with God. Their life changed, like baptisms a couple weeks ago. Heaven was crazy. I mean, it was a party in heaven. God and the angels, like, yeah. Because that's God's heart. That's Jesus' mindset. He came to seek and to save those who were lost to him, those who were disconnected. And the Pharisees, the religious people, didn't get it, right? But like, why would he spend time with the disconnected? And it's because they're disconnected. And his heart for his church, for his people, that same mission is what gave birth to us, to his church. That the church is not just a social club for Christians to hang out. Even though, yeah, we're gonna hang out and build relationships, and that's great. But that's really not the essence of why we're called to be who we are. The church is not an educational institute just to learn more and more, although we should learn more and more, and that's great. The church isn't just a Bible study for the already convinced, even though I love Bible studies and we have them, and I hope we'll continue, well, of course we'll continue them. The church, though, at its heart, is a movement built around a mission that is fueled by the passionate love of God for everybody that he came to seek and to save and to find and to pull into relationship with him. And his heart is not just for the found, but for those who are disconnected and for those who are crying out to him for help and wonder if he even exists. And that's why we're here. And for some reason, I think it's our sin nature, we will tend to always make it about us rather than about those who are not here yet. And the kind of church and the kind of person that has an outsized impact is the kind that has a Jesus mindset that says, not about me. The way we say it around here, one of our DNA statements is this is not our party. It's not our party. It's God's party. And it's our privilege to prepare the party and invite the guests. But it's not our party. The rest of the DNA statement, when you see it, says everything that we do at Chase Oaks is with that in mind. Everything we do is not just with hanging out with fellow religious people in mind. We want to do that, but in the context of a mission of reaching those who aren't here yet. That means the way we do church services, yes, we do think about Christians, and we want us as Christians to grow deeper and to learn the Bible and apply it. But when I speak, or any of our teaching teams speak, sometimes we'll refer to it, another buddy of mine does. It's a little violent, but it's a good Texas phrase, is double barrel preaching. Of one barrel thinking about the Christian and the other barrel thinking about somebody who doesn't know Jesus yet. And is it possible to be able to connect to that whole group? Of course it is, but you gotta be intentional about it. And if you wonder why we do certain kinds of music that we do, it's because this is God's party, and his party is not just for those of us who are found, but those who are yet to connect. And therefore we build this environment in ways where we can invite our friends and invite people in to say, no, this is a place as a searcher, as a seeker, as a person who, maybe is open to God, but has a lot of questions. We want this to be a place where we can invite our friends. And if you ever sit next to a non-church friend, you'll be thankful for every little single nuance, because we think about this and we pray about this. How do we remove every disconnect we can remove from that friend, and how can we build every little point of connection? And if you just come with religious people, you won't get it. But if you sit next to somebody that you've invited, you'll be like, oh, I'm so glad they sang that song. I'm so glad that that's the playlist that's in the lobby. because we think about that. We want to be hospitable. Same way that we do children's ministry, the way we do youth ministry, the way we do small groups, the way we do everything is not only with religious people in mind, but to take religious people deeper and deeper in their relationship with God in the context of mission, just like Jesus did with his 12 disciples. And that's the only way that what we call discipleship or spiritual formation is healthy anyway, is in the context of mission. Not making us more religious, but making us more like Jesus. And living in this world with his mindset, that it's not just about me, but it's about those who have yet to be. And I'm gonna join him in that. And like I said, it is so unnatural. And I think the second we take our eye off the ball is the second we begin to become like Pharisees. And I'm not talking about other people, I'm talking about me. It's just so natural to become internally focused and to lose external focus. And so that brings me to this series. So in this series, we're gonna be looking at, well, what does that mean? I mean, it's one thing to say, let's live with an external mindset, let's have an outsized impact. But in this series, it's gonna get very practical, just saying, yeah, how do we actually live in the world that we live in, globally, as well as locally, at our school, place of work, so on, in neighborhood, family? How do we live in a way that we really can be used by God and to fill out his heart for those who have yet to connect, and to be used by God to be the answer to people's prayers in our community and in different parts of our world who are crying out to God for help and wonder if he exists or cares. And it's you and me that get to be part of that. And in fact, so many of you serve in our church. And this is Friday night. We've got a lot of core people on Friday night that come to Friday night service. And I want to thank you for these years being so faithful. Those of you who serve in our ministries, in our church, like making these services happen, greeting, being in the parking lot, or serving in Kids Co, or serving in youth ministry, and all the different ways that you serve, as a small group leader, as a life group leader, or in one of our care ministries. You are providing the environment in which God can connect to the people that he wants to connect to. You're sort of teeing up that opportunity. We don't create life change. We just get to make the opportunity happen where God and people meet, and then whammo, life change happens. And for those of us who are involved, it's like so cool to be involved. And thank you for those. And if you haven't made that step, let me encourage you to take a step. And for those of you who also serve out in our community stuff, because we want to spin the energy out into our community, that's why we have Local Good Center and Local Good Pantry, and we have all of our partnerships and all our global partnerships as well. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Over 800 of you serve at Local Good Center alone, which is just unbelievable. But God's using you. And heaven rejoices because of what you're doing. And so in this series, we're gonna be learning about just how to take that deeper, not only as we gather together, but also everywhere God has placed us. Let me encourage you to come to each week of this series, because I believe it's one of the more important series we could ever do that honors the heart of God. I think God is saying, this is, I think, my favorite series. And then the season. So we're about to go through the holiday season, which is awesome, which will be fun. And I hope you have a blast. And I hope but you will have outsized joy in meaning and significance for you as a single person, for you as a couple, for you as a family, if you go through this with an external mindset. To say, I don't want to just enjoy the holidays with an internal mindset about me and just, hanging out with me and hanging out as a family and just our friends we already have. What if we went through this season with an external mindset? I don't want to just be blessed. I want to be a blessing in this season, because it's an incredible opportunity to, more than any other time of year, to do that. And that's why when you came in, you got this rock the season. And rock the season comes from ripple effect. We want to give you 3 rocks to throw in the water to create some ripples. And here's the 3 rocks. And for me, this is so helpful, because this is what we're going to ask in this season. Because otherwise, stuff just sort of comes at you. It's like, oh, I just gave to that, and now this. Well, if I would have known that, I might have done something different. So we want to just put it all out there. So, for example, the first rock is the donate rock. There's going to be opportunities financially to participate, to say, I want to use what, God, you've given me to steward faithfully and well. And so many of you already do that. As a regular part of your budget, you give regularly and proportionally to our church and to the general fund, and we can do everything we do because of that. And year end is a big deal. And some of you are, and I know we are, I'm praying about, okay, God, what do you want us to do at year end for the general fund? And we also have Reimagine that many of us have made pledges. I just reached out yesterday to our financial planner about finishing our pledge. And then he just reached out today to say, we need to talk. And I'm going to say, yeah, we need to talk, but you know, your job is to do what we got to, you know, so anyway, so we're all figuring that out. So there's a lot, right? And so in addition to all that is opportunity to engage in some specific ways. And I want you to know what they are. And maybe just choose one of these ways above and beyond what you may be doing. And if you can't, you can't. And maybe you can do all of them, but it's a lot. I don't want to be too overwhelming. So that's why I say, man, just pick a rock. It could be Gifts for Good. You'll hear about that. The local good pantry, you'll hear about that. The global fund, you'll hear about that. And so just through the season, say, okay, let's choose a rock, a way to contribute. I don't think you'll be surprised by anything else. And then serve, the serve rock. Choose a way to serve as a single, as a couple, as a family. At the local good pantry, you'll hear about food distribution, local good center, Thanksgiving meal. And you'll hear about all this stuff. But just know it's coming, and just go through this season to say, man, wouldn't it be cool to do that as a family? I promise you, your kids will look back and remember that more than anything else you do. And then invite. The Christmas season and the holiday season is the best time to invite. Christmas, even more than Easter in our culture. For people who aren't oriented around church, Easter is like a very Christian thing. But, I mean, still a great invitational opportunity. But Christmas is a cultural thing. Like everybody pretty much celebrates Christmas, whether they're Christian or religious or not. And so therefore looking for opportunities like our Christmas services that we design not just for us, but for those who have yet to come. And you'll see other opportunities there that you'll be hearing about to invite, because you just never know what's on the other side of an invitation. Like one of the people being baptized, and she shared her story at 9:00. When Chase Oker in her neighborhood met her, she said, hey, I like you, but I never want you to shove your Jesus down my throat. And now they laugh about it because she didn't shove Jesus down her throat. Jesus loved her. And she became a believer just a short time ago, got baptized 2 weeks ago. And now is a Jesus follower. But it just started with some simple relationship that led to an invitation that ended up changing everything. And so think about, man, who's that person in your life that you can invite? And think about a name, think about a person. Because it's just a great season to live life with a mindset that really does lead to an outsized impact. Because as human beings, life is overwhelming, it's busy, it's all that. It's so easy to live with an internal mindset. Church, same way. But we want to resist that and live a Jesus way to say, man, I want to live with an externally focused mindset. It's not about me, but it's about others, and especially those who have yet to connect to God, or those who are in need and need help, and God loves them, and He's, all that. I want to live in this world like that, and those are the people that will have the most joyful, significant impact that thrills the heart of God rather than that frustrates the heart of God. And when I think about that, I think about those people when we lost Caleb at the fair, and we were asking people to help. Here's what he looks like. Would you help? Most people honestly just blew us off and ate their funnel cake. But there were a couple who were like, okay, we'll be urgent too. We'll share your urgency. And they helped. And I'll be forever grateful for them. And I believe God feels the same. And He asks us, would you share my urgency? Would you be the people, the church, of the no more turning away? Let's bow our heads together in prayer. Father, thank you that you reached out to us. You came for us when we were the ones who were not found, who were disconnected from you. And you used people in our lives that invited or engaged or something, and we thank you for them. And God, would you help us to understand that and resist the inward pull, and to live with that same urgency and that same passion that you have, to share your urgency and to join you in your mission. As a church, would you keep us focused on that mission? As individuals, would you keep us focused on that mission? In Jesus' name, amen.